In the summer of 2002, Daniel Myers, a 32-year-old freelance journalist, was traveling through rural West Virginia, working on a piece about forgotten towns in the Appalachian Mountains. After days of driving through winding, narrow roads, he found himself in a small, mist-covered place called Hollow Creek, a town so small it didn't appear on his GPS. He hadn't planned to stop there. But his car's engine began to overheat, and the only service station for miles recommended a local woman named Mrs. Whitlock, who ran a roadside guest house. It was a 3-story Victorian relic with chipped white paint, a drooping porch, and a hand-painted sign that read, "Whitlock House, rooms available." She was in her 70s, soft-spoken and polite. The kind of woman who reminded Daniel of someone's grandmother. The guest book was dusty. The rate was cheap, $20 a night, cash only. "I've only got one room left," she said, with a tight smile, "at the end of the 3rd-floor hall." Daniel didn't think twice. The room was quiet, smelled of old cedar and mothballs, and overlooked a dense stretch of woods. The floorboards creaked under his feet, and the wallpaper was floral and peeling, but it felt safe, old-fashioned. He unpacked, took a few notes, and settled in for the night. At 3:12 a.m., he woke up to a sound. Tap, tap, tap. It was soft, but deliberate, coming from inside the wall near the headboard. Daniel sat up, confused. He held his breath, trying to hear. Silence. Then again, closer. Tap, tap, tap. He flicked on the bedside lamp. Nothing. No pipes, no wind, no explanation. Assuming it was mice or some structural settling, he tried to sleep. But over the next few days, things got stranger. The second night, he returned from dinner to find the room ice cold, despite the summer heat. The window was closed. The thermostat was broken. His notebook, which he had left on the desk, was open, and one page had been torn out. He found it under the bed the next morning, folded perfectly into a square. On the inside, in shaky handwriting, it read, "Do not open the closet." Daniel hadn't even noticed the closet before. It was a narrow, tall door flush with the wallpaper, with an old brass handle and no lock. He opened it out of curiosity and found it completely empty, except for a single hook on the wall and an old wire hanger. He shrugged it off as a prank. Maybe Mrs. Whitlock was a little senile and had some odd habits. But by night 3, Daniel wasn't sleeping. The tapping continued, louder, more insistent. Sometimes it came from behind the closet door. One night, he heard breathing, faint and wet, from the floor vent. And once, as he walked past the hallway mirror on his way to the bathroom, he saw someone else's reflection behind him. A boy no older than 10, wearing a torn white shirt and no shoes. When he turned, the hallway was empty. He confronted Mrs. Whitlock that morning, asking about the boy, the noises, and the note. Her smile didn't waver. "I don't have staff, and no children have stayed here in many years," she said, pouring coffee without meeting his eyes. "You're probably just not used to country quiet. Sometimes your own mind gets noisy." When Daniel insisted, she looked up and said softly, "If the house doesn't like you in that room, you should leave it." That was the last thing she said to him that day. Daniel decided he was done. That night, he packed his bags and intended to leave early the next morning, but his car wouldn't start. The engine clicked and hissed like something inside had rotted overnight. The mechanic wouldn't be able to come until morning. Resigned, Daniel returned to the room one last time. At 11:47 p.m., he heard the closet door creak open on its own. He stood frozen. The lamp flickered once. He could see the door had moved, maybe 2 inches. revealing pitch-black darkness inside, deeper than it should have been. Then came the whisper, "Come see." Not from the closet, from under the bed. Daniel dropped his bag and backed toward the door, but it slammed shut behind him. The lights went out. The tapping exploded into loud pounding from inside the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Then, silence, and the breathing returned. Right behind him, he turned slowly and saw a figure crawling out of the closet, thin, wrong, limbs too long, its face stretched into a grin that tore through pale, waxy flesh. The eyes were black, sunken pits, and it whispered with a voice like insects in water, "You saw me. Now I stay." Daniel threw himself at the window, shattered the glass, and leapt from the second floor. He landed hard, broke his wrist, and ran barefoot through the gravel drive toward the road. He flagged down a truck at dawn. Daniel never returned for his belongings. The Whitlock house was sold a year later, after Mrs. Whitlock passed in her sleep. The new owner attempted renovations, but claimed workers refused to enter the third-floor hall. Tools went missing. Ladders were found knocked over. One man quit after he said he heard a child crying behind the walls. The room at the end of the hall remained sealed. Some say you can still hear tapping from the window if you stand outside at night. And if you ever stay in an old house like that and hear breathing under the bed, don't look.